And as I get into like merging into the main part of traffic on Highway 15, that hood does this number and goes wham. The hood of this Range Rover is completely covering the windshield, and I'm going about 60.
Thanks for joining us on the Heirloom Podcast. Today we're going to talk about story.
Hey, why don't we talk about all 4 stories?
Yeah, we got a lot of work to do. The hotel's behind us, and right now we are not working because we're podcasting. But it's a very good guest today. We're going to have a big storyteller who joins us on the podcast.
I'd say he tells tall tales.
He's a tall man for sure.
You know, Heirloom's more than just a hotel. That's a great sign, by the way. Can you see it?
I can see it. It's such a pretty sign.
It's an awesome sign. And yes, it's attached to a 4-story amazing hotel with a cooking school and retail space. All amazing things, but honestly, it means more than that.
Yeah.
The Heirloom brand, the Heirloom name tells a story. It's the story of things we keep. It's the things that matter. And that's why we are dedicated to doing more than just building a hotel, even though that is a huge project at the moment. We're dedicated to telling the stories that need to be told, the stories that need to be saved and remembered.
Everybody is a recipient of a legacy. The Heirloom is about telling the story of that legacy and preserving the stories of legacy and passing them on to the next generation. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's how we make this content.
That's right.
You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, YouTube, and
TikTok.
We're on the TikTok.
Chat GPT. No,
we're not on Chat GPT. Yeah, so check us out on all of our social media platforms, theheirloom.us. Thank you for joining us on this journey as we tell stories of legacy that are dear to us and dear to our guests.
So watch us, read about us, come see us, and start making some memories and stories of your own.
We're almost done with the hotel. We'll be done later this year, then they come stay with us.
Later this year seems so far away. How about be watching for us very soon, coming soon.
We're not ready.
We're very close.
Look, I think it's important that they know we're making story now.
We're making story, and we're going to be able to book them any minute,
if they'll come.
any day.
We're months away. The things that last are oftentimes not the things that we mean to last.
Absolutely.
It's the story that your uncle told again and again and again at Christmas.
Absolutely, and it's as funny or as entertaining the 100th time you've heard it as it was the first.
Yeah, and that is the great thing about legacy. It's the little things, and that's what we want to talk about today: story and how story can impact legacy. A lot of people, again, think about legacy as something you do, some project you worked on. At least that's how I think. But just being a good storyteller and being a guy that enjoys a good story, that can have a very big impact on your legacy.
Well, also, it goes to show that the storyteller is as important as the story itself. What happens that's worth telling has to be told in a way that whoever the audience is hanging on to the details. They're hanging on to the entire storyline, the buildup of whatever it is that's going to be the payoff that happens, you know? I think that the storyteller is just as important as the story itself.
I'll tell you, I have a confession.
Hit me.
Something I'm almost ashamed to admit.
It's hard to admit.
You are a much better storyteller than I am.
Well, I appreciate that, but and I know the reason why. I mean, it's
Why?
because you're very technical.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You're
I like the data.
You're very detail oriented, which
Yeah,
is great.
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
great. You got to have that. You got to have that. But not necessarily every story has to include every detail.
That's the thing about a great story. I struggled listening to stories sometimes because I think that's not how it happened. Like you skipping over all the good stuff. But I'm very data driven, and a lot of times when I want to tell a story, it's just a bunch of information. But I think you naturally have always been a very gifted storyteller. The way that I give a story or the way I give information, once you get it once, you're good. You don't really need to hear
great.
it again.
Got all the
You don't need to
details.
hear it. But with you give a story, and I find myself being like, we'll go have a dinner party, and I'm like, hey Jim, tell him that story.
Hit them with it.
Tell him again.
Do it.
And if you're in a good mood, you do that.
Well, but I want to tell you, I think the most important thing somebody ever told me early when I was a young kid was know your audience, right? And if you tell a story based on who you're telling it to, it'll change a little bit versus if you tell the story the way you want to hear it. If you tell a story the way you want to hear it, then you're probably not going to connect with the people you're telling the story to.
Wow.
And so know the crowd and maybe adjust the story a bit based on who's listening.
And that's actually, you just helped me see something. So a good storyteller is by nature a person who is interested. They care about the listener, the audience. So they have to put themselves in the position of the person who's hearing the story in order to be a good storyteller.
Yeah. I think there's a certain degree of people pleasing there. Like if you're telling a story, first off, you want to represent it well, and you want the people. It's almost like cooking a great meal. Like if you prepare a meal the way maybe you like mustard.
No,
right?
okay,
And
I do. I like mustard.
Not everybody likes mustard. Sauerkraut. Water chestnuts.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know about that.
Not everybody's loving that.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you prepare dishes only with mustard, sauerkraut, and water chestnuts, probably people are going to be like, "Oh no, we're good, man. We got it taken care of. Don't worry about bringing dinner."
Yeah.
Whereas if you think about the people who you're preparing a meal for, and if you truly want to be hospitable to them and prepare something that they will enjoy, then you adjust the recipe a little bit for their taste.
So you're telling me I've been cooking one meal my entire life?
I think you like mustard and sauerkraut a little too much.
I think you're right. I was thinking about Southerners and story, and we are so committed to story in the South. We build stages in front of our houses.
It's true.
We put roofs on them. We call them porches.
Yeah.
But the front porch is really a stage for storytelling.
It's so true. I mean, you think about going traveling across the country. In the Northeast, they have the what are the brownstone builds that have the
steps in the front.
In the front.
Yeah.
But it's not a porch.
Right. Yeah, it's like, and in the South, it's like the stoop or the stairs. It's not enough room.
No,
we have such
need more.
big personalities.
We need more.
We need bigger spaces, bigger platforms to hold the
People.
characters that are coming on stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool concept. And also, to be honest with you, it's just so dang hot in the South in the middle of summer, I guess, particularly pre-air conditioning. You didn't have a lot else to do besides sit around and tell some good yarns, spin some yarns. Yeah. Storytelling is the kind of thing when it's happening correctly, you forget that you're experiencing it, right?
Yeah.
Like you forget the inflections that are happening, and you're kind of transported, right?
Absolutely. And too, I think something that's really cool about storytelling is that it brings you closer to people that maybe you have a connection with through your family or friendships or whatnot, but you don't really know them. Take a like a grandparent or great grandparent or something. Your long lost uncle. Storytelling keeps you close.
Yeah.
It keeps that relationship top of mind. When my uncle tells a story about my grandfather that I haven't heard,
that's good.
Immediately takes me back to being a kid, spending time with my grandfather, even though I wasn't there for that particular story. Like it takes me back. Storytelling is so important, I think, to the relationships we have with each other and maintaining the legacies of people that have gone before us.
Well, today I'm very excited. We are going to have a very special guest, Mr. Ben Napier, and we wanted him today to talk about not woodworking necessarily, and not even the TV show Home Town. we wanted to talk about storytelling because in our mind, the thing that Ben most loves is a good story.
Well, I think one of Ben's greatest traits, he's talented in everything that he does, but I think one of the things that makes him who he really is the fact that he's a great storyteller. His personality allows him to connect with whoever, and I mean whoever he's talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually want to talk about that when he gets here, but that is his favorite game, to connect with people through story. So very excited to have Mr. Ben Napier, and we'll see him here in just a minute. Bing. We are right now in the basement of the Heirloom Hotel, the biggest project of our life. We're remodeling it here in Laurel, Mississippi. It's a 25,000 square foot building, 30-room hotel. There's going to be a cooking school, also a podcast studio that will not be in the basement. Normally you see us in the unfinished space.
But you know what? We've done some episodes in the podcast studio.
That's right. Yep.
And
so this isn't. You will end up.
This is not it. Yeah. But I think it should be.
We're doing.
I love it.
It feels good.
It feels nice. We're doing some heavy construction right now in the podcast studio, but we will also have a Scotsman retail store, which is super exciting. So
very
that's
exciting
here at the Heirloom Hotel. Okay, I wrote this part. This is a good part. Listen to this.
Okay.
This is my introduction for you. And there is no better person to explore this with than Ben Napier, a man who has built houses, businesses. Don't read ahead of me. A man who has built houses, businesses, and a TV show. But more than anything, he's built a life around telling stories.
Dang, that is
Pretty good introduction, huh? Yeah.
That's really good.
All right, so what do you got to say now?
All right,
Tell us a story there, TV man.
Thank you. The storytelling in TV is honestly, of all the storytelling I do, it's not my favorite.
Really?
It's not.
Why is that?
Because Lindsay Whitehorn, one time she explained it. She said it's like they're seeing a shadow of you, and they think they see the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's all, that they can only hold on to the shadow. They don't want to get to know anything else. They only want the shadow. And so I don't know. Well,
the good thing about it, the whole version of you is a much longer winded version.
Exactly.
So it's a lot better that you get it down to the clever quips.
Down to the shadow. But that being said, I mean it's been an incredible blessing to our family, and
a long one.
Well, that's what
good night, yeah. We've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was thinking both of you love a good story.
Yes.
Like y'all love to tell stories. And something I've noticed about good storytellers, when you get them together in the same room, they don't compete necessarily. No. They just start feeding off of each other's energy.
And you build.
You just keep going.
Yeah.
And
but because all it takes is one hook in the story to catch your attention, to remind you of how that connects with the story you have.
And then the problem is that we all have lives and we have things to do, but we want to keep going.
Yeah.
In the story.
That reminds me of the time.
Here we go.
And there it is.
Yeah, exactly. and what's great about that, so I like to relive my past through y'all's story.
Really?
So we'll get back to, so like we'll have a dinner and y'all will start telling something we did 10 years ago. And I just like to hear the narration from y'all's perspective of something that I was a part of that I don't remember at all, like y'all tell it. But it's so good. Y'all are so good. I'm not saying it didn't happen that way. I'm just saying that's how y'all tell it.
When we wrote our book, one of our editors, John, he and I were talking, and I was like, I don't know that this is exactly the way it happened. I need to talk to my parents. I need to talk to somebody. And he said, and as a history student, this was a difficult thing to hear. But he said, well, if it's the way you remember it, then it is the story, whether that's what happened or not. And I said,
sounds like something I'd hear on Seinfeld. Sounds like George.
It's not a lie.
If you believe it.
If you believe it. Right. And so it was very free. It was very freeing. You mean I don't have to get any of this right? I can just make this up.
And then what you end up doing, you love the version of the story that you tell, and you want to hear it again. And so we get together, and I love to hear the same old stories. That's true. That's true when we're all together. Now, I have found that is not true of your wives. Do you ever find that they want to hear you tell the same old story again?
So with Erin, if it's with someone new,
Yeah, she loves it.
she loves it.
Yeah.
But if it's the same people, like if it's the six of us
And you
hanging out and we start telling
Some
the same
serious
stories,
eye rolling going on.
yeah, and they start trying to cut it off, and it's like, whoa,
They want to speed it up to get to
Yeah.
the next thing. Yeah.
I didn't even mention the tetrazzini.
It's so true. It's like the same story can all be just an absolute source of pride in front of some people, yet at the same time the most boring waste of
Yes.
time in the world with other people.
Yeah.
Well, and the
exact same
Rasberry-
story.
The Rasberry men, for some reason, catch it so much worse than any other man I've ever been around. Any other storytellers.
Yeah.
That's
They're all storytellers too. I'm gonna
They
get to
are,
that in a little bit. Yeah.
And it's. I have never. You and Erin's dad and Uncle Danny
And Clark.
and Clark. I've never seen the women in your lives come down. I've never seen another woman come down on their men for telling a story like they do.
Well,
It's really an art. and they're-
when you get them all together.
yeah, it's good. Gosh,
I think it's like one of those things where when you meet somebody and you see something that's kind of quirky about them that at first you're like, that's neat, that's
charming.
interesting, that's charming about that person, and then fast forward like 10, 15 years and you're just like, my God.
this again.
We have somewhere to
Will
go.
you-
Will you hurry up?
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like,
But again, if it's in like with Erin's dad, he has told the same stories at every family get together that I have ever been to, and if there is someone new there involved, Karen beams with pride and she is just loving it and all this, but if it's the same people, she is
well, they
over
Speed
it.
it up.
They
Yeah,
do
speed it up.
remember. They do remember the first time they heard it.
Yeah,
And so for a moment, they're transported back to when it was charming.
that's true.
And see, yeah, and
It's a
that's
brief
that's
moment.
the
Brief moment.
that's the thing. What you find is like, so Erin or Mallory are way more practical. There's something they have to go get done. So maybe there's something that your daughters need. They need to run and get it done, and you guys are telling the story in all the detail that you did the first time. You're
Yeah.
like, I can tell the story. Then you get started, and they're like, not that version. Just
Just shorten
tighten
it
it,
up.
Dial it
it
in.
up. Yeah, shorten it down.
Tap the brakes.
Yeah, there's this. There's a writer in the 20th century, G.K. Chesterton, and he writes about what if God is like a child, in the sense like the way your little child will say, "Do it again, Dad. Do it again, Dad. Do it again, Dad." And he says that about God when it comes to the way the sun rises in the morning. God says, "Do it again." Good storytellers are like that. People who like to tell good stories, they want to hear good stories, and so you get them together, and they're like, "Hey, Ben, tell that story again." The good one.
Yeah,
Do you ever catch yourself hearing somebody tell a story, and while the content is entertaining, you're sitting there like telling it to yourself in a different way, a more entertaining way, because you're like you're being a little bit critical in the way they're telling the story. You're like, oh, it could be so much better.
Is that what you do for me?
Sometimes.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm trying
Good.
to think.
Maybe next time just take over and tell it better. I can't.
The problem that I have is I start what we were talking about with the layering. I start like thinking about, oh gosh, yeah, and then this happened to me, and then I start telling my story, but I want them to get theirs out, and I don't want to interrupt it. But then I start wanting to speed it up so I can get to mine.
But it's like somebody telling a joke. Like when somebody tells a joke, but they hit you with the punchline
And
too
the wrong
early
tone or something,
or the wrong tone, and it's like it's funny. Like that's a good joke, but if delivered in a little bit different way, man, it would kill. And sometimes I hear a story and I'm thinking, oh man, if you'd have hung on, if you'd have just waited.
We've been watching Full House. My girls are obsessed. And I love it because it's I don't have to worry about anything. Like on the episode that we watched most recently, Uncle Joey has a new lady friend. And I walked in and he's in his pajamas and she's there. And I was like, oh, shoot, did she spend the night? What is going on here? What did I miss? What happened? But she didn't. She had popped by on her way to the gym.
That's right. Good.
And then later on, they're going on a trip together, but you don't see them staying together. And then when they come back, she goes back to her place. And anyway, so we're watching the show, and Erin is like, I don't know how in the world you can stand to sit here and watch this. And I was like, what are you talking about? And
Were you watching it by yourself?
No, I'm watching it with the girls.
Erin walks in.
No, she's cooking, and she's watching us watch it. And she's like, the jokes are terrible. There's a laugh track. The acting is like, it's okay. And I was like, it's a 90s sitcom or 80s sitcom. And I said, it's just enough for everyone to have something that they can take from it. And anyway, just talking about the jokes, like the jokes are funny, but the timing is a little bit off because it's for TV,
Right.
and it's a sitcom, and then they force the laugh track to make.
Hey, that laugh track's important.
It is.
I want a laugh track for this show. I think it'd be great.
Something I never knew or really appreciated is how many shows, sitcoms,
Yeah.
had live
Seinfeld.
audiences.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
yeah.
like, imagine being on set, not only acting, but also getting immediate response.
Or
really
from
nice.
like
Yeah.
No.
200
Or
people.
lack of response.
No, that's
Yeah,
what. So
yeah.
look, filming a podcast is a lot different than being on stage. Being on stage for a storyteller like Jim, he's feeding off the audience that's there. When you're in the studio room, it's kind of hard to do. So we want to do some of these episodes live because of that different energy that you get from the live show.
Chris Sullivan, his like
Uh,
debut and
From
Who's
This
Chris
Is Us.
Sullivan? You help us
a
with that.
friend of ours. He's an actor in Hollywood. He's a big, famous, cool guy.
He literally is big.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tall.
I
He's
call
tall
him the
fella.
Ben Napier of Hollywood, and
He's more handsome.
he is
He's
more handsome
way
and
more handsome.
and way more talented and way more successful. And but his like start in acting was he did a one-man traveling show. I cannot remember the name of it, and I'm sorry, Chris, but he did this one-man traveling show. It was like a theater performance, not a stand-up or anything. And he said, like, you go out every night and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And he said, sometimes everything hits, they're connected. And he said, sometimes it was a total disaster, and he would have to grind through it and get to the end. And I mean, you feed off of the audience around you. Same with storytelling.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Well, and too depends on the audience.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you may be hitting on all cylinders and think, oh, this is gonna land so well.
Yeah.
But depending on who you're talking to, Josh and I spoke to, and Mallory, we spoke to a group of Mississippi Power had an event.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And the house was packed. It's full. Now, what we didn't know was it was a mandatory meeting.
Oh gosh.
It was like
was-
8:30 in the morning. I
It was
think,
8:30 in the morning, and it was not.
Were these line workers?
Yes.
They were linemen.
It wasn't.
Bunch
it
of
wasn't-
bearded linemen.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Let's just say
administrative staff.
Let's just say they'd not watched Hometown.
No.
All right.
And the exact same speech that got a standing ovation.
In Des Moines.
Desmones.
In Orlando. Yeah. Standing ovation.
Was absolutely silent.
You talk
Arms
about questioning.
crossed.
You talk about questioning yourself.
It was like,
I can
Man,
find
I-
another job.
I thought that was a lot. Thought that went better.
So that's my dad is, in my opinion, the ultimate storyteller because he grew up on a working farm, and he played sports. So like he was a farmer. He played sports.
Farmers they have good storytellers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then his next job, I think his next one, was he was a foreman of a ranch, of a massive ranch. And so he was a foreman. So he, rode and roped and did the whole thing.
Your dad.
My dad.
What
all right?
ranch? Where was it?
I can't think. It's the Rogers Ranch on the other side of Collins.
Okay.
Out
all
there,
right.
big white cow on the side of
Okay.
84.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I know where you're at.
that ranch. Okay. So he was a foreman. And then after that, he worked in the oil field. Then he was a mechanic and ran a service station. And then he was a truck driver. And at one point, he had a massive farm. And then he goes to college and gets a master's degree from Duke University. So it's like he has this amazing perspective on, faith and theology, and his undergrad was in psychology. So he has this, amazing perspective on how the mind works, and, the scientific side of it and the emotional side of it. And, but then also like he has done so much that he can connect with anyone on anything. And on top of that, he has a master's degree from Duke University. So he has that card up his sleeve. And so he can go into any church, any group, anywhere, and connect with these people,
relate to them,
and relate to them, and talk to them. And because he understands the oil field and how that works, and he understands the cattle industry and how that works, and
So how do you do it?
how do I do it? I copy him.
He's got all this great experience, and he's connected with everyone. How do you do it?
I'm just gleaning off of him. No, I think for me it's that I have lived so many places. So many places, all of them in Mississippi or North Carolina, but I've visited places and I've met people from places, and that is always my connection is. Where are you from? Because it plays a huge role in who we become.
I was actually going to ask the question. You're recognizable now. You're watched by a couple of million people a week.
Sure.
I mean, I'm seen sometimes. Jim's on the show occasionally.
Absolutely.
Right? The world knows you as the host of HGTV show. I know you as my woodshop assistant. So, the thing about you is you tend to leave a mess in the woodshop. That's the only thing. No. Would you say you can't go to Lowe's anymore because you're famous, or because you get stuck telling stories? Ben is not able to run errands anymore, not because he's Hollywood.
Well,
because he always takes so long when he runs an errand.
It's the gateway in, is that they are going to speak, and I cannot stop myself from continuing the conversation.
So essentially, you're cut off from all errand running at this point.
Exactly.
If you've got to do it timely, don't call Ben Napier. That's not the way to do it.
This is going to sound.
And I was going to add, because you loved, and this is something I love about you, Ben. You want to connect with people.
Absolutely.
And so you love to hear their story and then find something in your life story that connects. That's something you've done since I've known you in college.
Absolutely.
And that's something I think you're really good at. It makes you bad at running errands, but it makes you good at connecting with people.
Yeah. So the other day, I needed
I can't wait.
a thermostat gasket, a gasket, a water net gasket for the thermostat on Dale Jr., my Suburban. And I was like, okay, if I go to the store, I will not finish this today. So the day is shot at this point.
At least you know it.
The next day I was going to be busy, and so I said I could order one and have it delivered, and it'll be here in a couple days. And then I can go and work in the garden today, and I'll get something done. Whereas if I go to Napa or CarQuest, I am going to be there for the rest of the afternoon, and that's assuming they have the part I need. Because then that opens another. What you got a 6.2 diesel in? That's that 87 Suburban. Oh, that blue. Yeah, yeah. Where'd that come from? And then I'm in.
And you love it,
and I love it, and I don't want to
see.
And then there's going to be another storyteller there.
When Jim and I
exactly. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not talking to somebody that doesn't have any common interest. You're walking into
the
your
belly
place.
of the beast.
That's your place. And what's funny, when Jim or I go to the car parts store, we feel as unwelcomed as possible, and they drive us out as quick as they can. Is that not true, Jim?
It's so true.
I've never felt more stupid than when I go to a car parts store.
Yeah.
Well, when you walk in and you say, I need a water net gasket for a 6.2 diesel, that is going to open up so much, because so I've in doing this, I broke a bolt on my motor, okay? And I was like, oh gosh. So I was going to use an ease out to try and get it out. And I talked to one mechanic, and he was like, don't do that. Just drill it out and put a bolt and a nut on it. And I was like, well, I'm going to see if I can fix this thing the right way, And it didn't. The metal they used to make the crossover tube was cheap. Anyway, it broke it. So I had to get a new one. Luckily, I've been to college, and so I took it apart. took the whole thing off and set it up there and looked at it and made notes. And I got online and started looking. There's like 30 versions of this thing that I need. So that opens a can of worms of storytelling at the parts. So
That's what, I was thinking about you and something that's interesting about you and Erin, but you especially. So you love old cars.
yes,
You love old houses.
yes,
You love old furniture.
yes,
Why do you think that is?
because they tell stories. Every vehicle that we own is weird. I saw an article. There was an article out this week. Erin showed it to me yesterday that said I have a car collection worth $500,000.
Oh, it said this. Oh, there was an article about you that said this.
It said I had a car.
I've ridden in your cars. I don't think you have a $500,000 car collection. I think it's
I didn't
piece of
realize
junk you got.
I didn't realize you had 100 cars now.
Yeah. I mean, didn't you buy Jim's Range Rover for, was it $5,000 or $4,000?
It was 3.
Yeah, it was 2.
I don't know. Erin bought
two.
it. That was my Christmas present.
Real quick. Okay, just tell a quick story about how that happened, how you bought that. Jim, start the story on the
So-
Range Rover. I want Jim to I want to tell him why he got rid of that Range Rover.
So I'm the last guy in the world that should be doing any type of car work, right? And so this goes back. I've got 2020. I got COVID. I'm
At death's door.
Well, no, I'm just alone.
That was right. Yeah.
He was so lonely. He was isolated. He was so lonely.
No, well, it was
You
early
bought 2
on.
vehicles.
Did I?
Bronco.
Oh, well, that was.
You reserved.
All right, well, let me add
Yeah.
this. Let me insert this. Jim should know better. Don't buy an old vehicle. I
Don't-
like
yeah.
old vehicles. You like old vehicles. Jim,
I have
you're
no
a new
business.
guy. You're a new
I have
vehicle
no
guy.
business,
All right.
business buying old vehicle. So I've got the COVID, and I'm at my dad's house. What would they used to call that? What was the thing when you would isolate?
Quarantine.
Quarantine. I was
It's a lo-
quarantining.
Many years ago, it was
I was
a quarantine.
quarantining.
Yeah.
Yes, and you get on the Facebook Marketplace as one does, and there.
It's a
Ben's
slippery
hobby.
slope.
Oh, man.
Dangerous drug.
Yeah. I see I think it was a 94,
Mhm.
94
Range Rover.
Range Rover
County.
long wheelbase
Long
county.
wheelbase.
So I see it in the pictures of this thing.
It looks awesome.
I'm telling you, like this dude has taken it out to a pasture.
He's hired Brooke to do
He's-
professional photography.
He's got it parked next to a barn. It's been and the
It still is a good looking rig.
oh yeah, it looks great. And he's in Birmingham, Alabama, and so not England, and and so
They're big
and
over
so-
there in England.
They
They're
are,
big.
yeah.
Yeah,
They are.
So you got to clarify. Yeah, thanks.
and
Birmingham.
and so once recovered, I may have told Mallory that I was like, "Hey, what do you think about that?" And I can't remember exactly how it went, but it was a cool reception, maybe cold. And but anyway, I had a Monday where I didn't have much on the calendar, and I told my mom, "Hey, let's go to Birmingham." Moms love to hang out with their
Love
sons.
to go to Birmingham.
Love Birmingham. And so we load up, we go, and I'm like, look,
By the way, Mom.
I'm not buying this car. I'm not getting it. But I do want to look at it. And so the guy, I text the guy, we end up meeting in a parking lot in a park outside of like downtown area. It was a little shady. I should have known then. But we get in and he's telling me all the stuff he's done to it. And when you got your mind set on something, you can kind of rationalize like, that engine clicking. He's already said he knew about it. It wasn't that big a deal. Like no reason to question this stranger. And so we get in the rig, we get in the Range Rover, and we ride around. I'm like, it's driving, it's working. And a few of the buttons don't work, but that's electrical. You figure that out. And
Electrical.
You'll figure that
The
out.
hardest part.
Literally.
and so we get back, and he's like, I said, "What you want for it?" He's got 13.5 on the internet.
You lowballed him.
No,
And
I'm sure you lowball.
he said-
13-2.
He said, "I'd take 13." I said, I ain't gonna do 13. I said, "I'll do 8." And like, this ain't happening. If I get it for 8, then good for me. And he's like, all right. No, like no negotiating whatsoever. And as soon as he said it, I was like,
Oh, shoot.
I've made a mistake.
Oh gosh. Well, but I do have it.
There you go. Yeah, the cash.
And he hands me 10 keys.
Yeah, so many keys.
So many keys.
So is
and so I'm like, you know what? This is good.
you good deal. Got a good deal.
Mom, follow me. If you see me with blinkers on, just pull over with me. We get gas. We make it back to Laurel. I mean, it's running a little hot, but nothing like, I mean, it's old. It's a 94. Like,
Yeah.
Stuff runs hot.
Mallory was excited, I bet.
Well, I mean, from an emotional standpoint, there was excitement. There was an excited
State
emotional
of mind.
response. High pitched. But you know, I take it to, there's a new shop that opens up in town. They've got great branding. And I'm thinking, this is the shop.
downtown.
This is the shop. This is going to be my shop. I'm going to go. This is my go-to shop. Walk in. I'm like, here's my truck. Here's what I want to do. I want to put a 2-inch lift on it. I want bigger tires.
Jim always, let me pause. Before anything else, Jim's always going to add a lift or a leveling kit and tires. It doesn't matter if it's got a gas leak, a little electric issue. He's gonna put big tires on it, and he's gonna give it a lift. All right, go ahead. Just want to make sure that's clear to our audience.
Well, I don't know cars, but I know looks.
You know
like
tires.
That, yeah.
You
Fix
have
that.
taste.
Fix that.
Yeah.
We'll get to the other stuff later. 6 months later, we got a lift on it. We got big tires on it. It's road ready. I mean, the only thing that doesn't work is like the back windows or something, and the sunroof that leaks. And so I get on the road. I'm taking it for a spin.
It has a great stereo.
Yeah.
So you may have had the radio on.
Might have. I can't remember because it's like one of those things where like when you have like a dramatic event happen in your life, you don't remember the things leading up to it. It's just the event. And so I'm going under the overpass, the interstate overpass, and as I get into like merging into the main part of traffic on Highway 15,
Yeah.
that hood does this number and goes whap. It doesn't fly off. The hood of this Range Rover is completely covering the windshield, and I'm going about 60. With
Coming towards a bridge.
With traffic merging. Thank God I had the window down because my only option was Ace Ventura style
Out the window.
out the window. And up ahead was a church without a parking lot. It's like one of those little churches that just has like grass and no real entrance. And I was able, because of that, I didn't have to worry about like making a proper turn. I just
Eased off.
right into that yard. And I mean, I'm shaking.
Yeah,
I don't know like what just happened. It was one of those moments where I was like, book closed. That's it. This is the
Not the hood closed, though.
He forgot to latch the hood. That's all it was.
That wasn't my fault. I still
your new
contend.
mechanic.
I still contend that was the mechanic's fault because it had been there for 6 months. The hood had been open for 6 months, and they just like eased it down, didn't latch it, and gave me the keys, and we're like, yeah, it's fixed.
Yeah, so that closed the book on old vehicles for you.
From that point on, anytime like I get a hankering, I'm on Facebook Marketplace, and it
62
throws
Cadillac.
up. Oh man! Oh, look at that thing! Oh, one owner.
No.
Oh, you came to talk to me after this, and you were shook up.
Oh,
I can
You were
imagine.
so shook up.
let a hood fly up
60 miles an
while
hour.
you're going 60 miles an hour. Like essentially, imagine being on the interstate and you going blind.
Erin is always fascinated by all of my car breakdown stories. There was a period of time where my dad drove a, I don't know, late 70s Datsun. Or no, it wouldn't have been a late 70s, early 70s or late 60s. Datsun, 4-door, kind of a hatchback thing. And It was the most dependable vehicle. Like, it never broke down. We would drive it everywhere. But I remember specifically, we were going down the road. Me, Sam, and Tom are in the back seat, and the hood flies up. And we pull over on the shoulder, and I remember thinking, like, what are we going to do? And Daddy gets out and grabs the hood and just rips it off, gets back in the car and keeps going. Leaves it on the side of the highway.
Did he act like triggered like Jim did?
Oh, I'm sure.
He probably played it cool in front of you Napier boys, though. Y'all didn't have a
I doubt
clue.
that. It
Daddy's
was,
so tough, he just ripped that hood off. Look
I
at him.
remember that's when I tell the story. I'm like, yeah, he ripped
He-Man.
the bolts and everything.
It was a Datsun.
And then fast forward, I remember being like, this was years later, and the car, we still had it and no hood.
What's amazing to me, this shows you your experience with old vehicles. Jim tells a story about a hood coming off. You have one that matches it.
Yes, that's
like I have a
Erin
lot of
has-
old vehicles. My story's only the shimmy. I know the hood's shimmy, and you're like, something's
Yeah.
not right. I got to pull over and check this. I've been there, but I haven't had full blockage like Jim has or your dad.
But Erin, though, like, when I start telling the story, she's like, well, one time we were on the way back from the beach, and the air conditioner went out on Mama's Mercedes, and I'm like, cool. One time we left Waynesboro, Mississippi, in the dead of summer and drove to North Carolina without air conditioning in a Buick LeSabre.
It didn't go out on the way.
No,
it wasn't
didn't.
working when you left.
And we didn't know it. We thought it was working. And then Daddy cuts the AC on, and he's like, my God. He said some things. And,
This is a bastard.
and so,
One thing, so you brought up earlier the Rasberry ability to tell a story, because you've got Jim and then
Yeah.
Jim's dad, Danny Rasberry, both big storytellers. You've
Yeah.
got Phil,
Great
Jim's
storyteller.
uncle, Erin's dad, great storyteller, and Clark is a great storyteller, and Erin is a great storyteller. When
Mhm.
she wants to tell a story, she can tell a story. Now, you said earlier your dad has that ability, that ability too. It's kind of come down from the family line. You ever notice when Jim, Clark,
they are the same person.
they tell stories, and they do impressions, but not like exact impressions.
But
They'll-
you know it.
Yeah, they'll take some part of the voice, or they'll do something and they'll play it up, and it's remarkable.
And the interesting, so me and my brothers all do the exact same impression of my dad.
Oh no.
And and Erin and my mom and all of our wives are like, he doesn't do that. And we're
That
like,
doesn't matter. It's
what do
He
you
does
mean?
to us.
He does do that. You've just never experienced. And he's like, I ain't never done that. I'm like,
What does it look like?
like, he's so angry that he can't get words out. And he's never. I mean, we all do the evidently you got more sleep than I did. And that's one that he does. He actually
Evidently?
does do that.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Yeah.
Likes to use his big words.
Yeah,
He's in
but
college.
what's funny is, so first, impressions aren't necessary for stories, and
No.
but
But
they
it makes
do
it
add
so much
to.
better.
Yeah.
But again, what I found is it's not exact impression. So when you watch, say, Saturday Night Live, everyone wants to see an exact impression. In real storytelling, it's just a little piece of the person's personality that you multiply, that you exaggerate
Yeah.
to make your story work.
If you can catch just a little bit of the person that the story's been told about, and it, like, you connect with, like, what the tone of voice or a certain
Some-
word,
Yeah.
you're immediately more drawn to it, because you're like, oh yeah, yep.
So Clark does a really good impression of
Yeah.
of Ben, but he doesn't really impress you. He just does some little part of
Thing
your.
that,
Yeah, I
that
can't even remember what he
he's-
does.
He does the he goes,
He goes deep, he does deep, like-
he gets real deep. He goes,
does, yeah.
like, and then I was like,
He does.
it's
But
good.
what's good about the
It's the
raspberries?
best brother-in-law
they-
I've ever had.
So the the only one, yeah. What's great about it is the impressions of the raspberry. They're not exact. They're not like real impressions, but they do them so well with such confidence. That's the thing
Yes.
about a raspberry. They are so confident in their impression of the person. You, as a story listener or the listener, you're just like,
You believe it.
yeah, you're like, yeah, that's Ben.
Yeah, that's it.
That's Ben.
That's
That's how he does it.
If you take it out of context, it never really works. But
Well,
to
and the
hear
funny thing-
Clark do you, it
so
really works.
Clark, he does these, and he's not like being mean or making fun or anything.
It's in his blood, man. He's
But then someone one time relayed his impersonation to a friend of Clark's, but he wasn't like a good friend. And that person got so upset about it that they like quit talking to him.
Really?
Yeah.
He was doing an impression of someone,
And
and
then
it got back to him that he was doing an impression of them.
yes.
Oh man.
And
And they got mad about it.
you got to embrace those impressions. You know?
And yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
good.
Yeah, so like I said, I think it is in the blood, in the raspberry blood for sure, in the Napier blood from my experience. So that's interesting how storytelling. And why do you think that is? Like, how does that happen?
It's just it's part of our heirlooms.
part of your
Part of-
inheritance.
Part of our
That's right.
inheritance.
Yeah, you can wax
it
on and
is,
on in a story.
But the greatest thing is when you've heard a story over and over and over and over and over, and then you hear it from someone else who was a part of the story, and you never met them, and then you meet them, and you're like, oh my God.
It's almost like a legend has come before you.
It's suddenly it gives it a whole new.
Like some man has stepped out of the mist, and you're like,
And this has happened.
you're the guy.
Twice. Yeah, you're the guy. Exactly. It's like, oh my gosh, you are the one. And it's happened twice. There's one story that my father-in-law tells about a college excursion, and actually the mayor of Ellisville was in on it, and I had never met him. And Lynn Buckholtz. And then later on, I was telling the story, and I said, hey, you were there, weren't you? And he was like, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'll tell you the story one day when we're not in a public meeting. And he did. He told me the story, and it's verbatim. He's the exact same things that Phil said. And then Phil was in at a doctor's conference thing, and the other side of the story, the antagonist, surfaced. And it was like, oh my God. And so they heard the other side, and the same thing. The antagonist tells it the same way. And then when we went down to Camp Pollywiggle, when we were filming.
Strange thing to say. I remember very well. Yes.
Yeah. When we went down there to film, all those people grew up with someone else who was in the story. And I said, hey, did you ever hear the story about, and they said the Stone Toad? And I was like, yes.
And that's the thing. I also know this story because it is so intriguing and entertaining that truly it's one of those stories where I suspect it's been told 1,000 times among the people that were there.
I've told it, and my parents weren't even married yet, but when this happened, but I've told that story on the rooftop of a building in New York City to a bunch of, New
York people.
New Yorkers. So it's a good story.
Yeah.
Grows and takes on a whole new life.
When you've heard a story over and over and over, and then you meet the person in the story that you didn't know, it is almost like when you've been reading a book, The Chronicles of Narnia, and a character has stepped off the page into reality. That's almost what it's like.
Yeah.
You're like, you're him. You're the guy. And then, of course, then you get to hear their version of those same events. So it's always interesting.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
I have to potty. Should we take
You
a
are.
break?
This is we are potting.
All right, we can pottying.
Oh, TT.
TT, I need to go
TT.
potty. I'm going to go potty. Can we take a break? All right, real quick.
TT is not a word that I thought I would ever say, and then I had little girls.
I have a question for you two.
Okay.
The thing about storytelling, it's all about timing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep from making a story too long-winded? Jim.
I struggle. It is, and it's not always like if it's someone new, the problem is that when we're all together, I want to make sure y'all get all the details.
That's right.
And when it's someone new, I'm usually good, but every now and then I'll be with someone new, and I can feel myself losing them in the moment, and I'm like, I gotta shut this off.
But I can't.
You totally have to respond to your audience, and if
Even if it's one person,
if you're losing eye contact, you're losing the smile, you're losing interest, you got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Now, I found that in like social settings where people are a little like shy and like nobody wants to say anything, nobody really wants to say anything. They're like, how's it going? Good. How are you? Good. That is the perfect environment to tell the longest story you can because everybody wants it to be longer.
yeah.
Because it takes the pressure off of them from having to like come up with something.
So that's Erin is an introvert, And a lot of people don't know that because they watch the show and they're seeing a shadow of who
Yeah,
she is.
yeah.
But she's an introvert. And so she really, if she's doing a thing and it's going to be new people and I'm not there, she really struggles. And it's because she wants me to talk and to keep it going and all that. But then there's the flip of it where, someone sees us in a parking lot and they're, we're filming in Sebring, Florida, and they're like, hey, I like that International Scout. And then I'm like, well, let me tell you about it. And she's like, what are you doing? We got to go. They didn't ask for a conversation.
I wanted to bring that up. So, people get to watch the TV show. It's, how long? It's 43 minutes of content, probably something like that, edited down. And so you guys film pretty much all day to make the TV show. Y'all film 5 or 6 episodes at a time. One of the hardest things for the production company, obviously Ben adding narration and talking, that is mainly his job. That's what you're meant to do.
Sure.
Tell the story of what y'all are doing. But from a time management standpoint, from production side,
it's awful.
I have watched them sweating bullets because you'll be like a delivery guy popped in to drop off something and you notice something, having a 25-minute conversation and the director's just sweating like, oh, we got to get this thing filmed.
That's because Ben worked at UPS.
Yeah.
And so when the guy drops off a package, it's like,
hey, how long you been with which contractor you on?
Which one you with?
We did some commercials in California, and it was a big shoot, like a big union thing, and there were so many people, and I wanted to know what every single person did. I wanted to know, what is a grip? Why do they call you a grip? How long have you been doing this? Is this your life goal, or do you want to move on from here?
I think there's a scene in Crocodile Dundee in New York where he's like introducing himself to everybody in the city. Nice to meet you. Yeah. I'll see you around.
Yeah, see you around. That is me in New York, but they eventually assigned an assistant director to just follow me.
Yeah.
And because they kept telling me, can you just sit over here, when you're like, well, I'm not going to sit there. I'm going to go get a snack on the way to the snack.
You bump into the sound guy.
Yeah. So it was, and I love gathering these people's stories and making a connection with them. And anyway, yeah,
it's great for narration. It's kind of trouble for staying on a schedule, but
it's true. It's awful for
a
schedule.
Thinking about storytelling, how would you say that's helped Hometown be successful and the city of Laurel?
It is a different show than any other show, in my opinion. I mean, there are similarities with other shows, of course, but I mean, we do renovate a house, we do this, but we are telling the story of a small town through the people in that town and through the contractors and all that. And so that's a different take than, say, some of these other shows where they're only showing, you may not even know where it is,
you find that the town gives
a character.
Yeah, gives color to the whole story.
Why do you think people connect with that?
Yeah.
Because, so very early on, we're in New York City. I tell this story every time. We're walking down Fifth Avenue. We're in a sea of people, and we are meeting another sea. The hand comes up, and then it turns to the guy walking, and we start across. And a guy who's covered in tattoos on his arms, wearing dark rimmed glasses and a Brooklyn hat, pops me on the shoulder. It's like stiff arms.
Yeah, that's tough stuff in New York, isn't it?
And it's like, and
here we go.
Like, all right, we go.
New York, I've heard stories.
So I turn, like, in this fight or flight mode, and he says, in his accent, he says, "Hometown, love your show, man." And I was like, "Thank you." Wow. This is really cool.
Where are you from, buddy?
Yeah, where are you from? Brooklyn, huh? Yeah. Yeah, I used to stay, when we would come and visit, I would stay at Prospect. Have you ever been? Every time. You ever been to Prospect Park? You're like, yeah, everyone has. Oh, really? Is it that popular?
Is there places to go? Is there something else I should see? Yeah, it's always. You
ever been to this coffee shop? No. So I was talking to, again, Lindsay Whitehorn about it, and she says, she was like, well, everybody's from somewhere. Everybody has a hometown, and they connect with that. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really beautiful. It is. Yeah, everybody is from somewhere, and they want to see that place succeed and be good. And so I think, and when we started, our only rule was we cannot make Mississippi look bad. Plenty of other people doing that. We said we will not tell a bad story about where we're from. And so that's been fun. We get to shine a spotlight on this beautiful place that we live, that we all love so much, and tell why we love it. And so, yeah.
What's interesting, so thinking about downtown space, so the show really came out of a heart for revitalizing our downtown. We all moved downtown. I like to think it's 10 years ago, but it's pretty much 20 years ago.
We're like 20.
Now. Yeah. And
that's the thing. It was 10 years when we started.
Yeah, that's right.
Show.
So, yeah, that's right. So that was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But what's fun about the downtown footprint is it is designed for storytelling. It's designed to bump into people walking on the street as you go to get to the barbershop. So it's a space that's designed for storytelling. And it's very interesting that storytelling has helped led to the revival of that space that was made for storytelling. It's kind of a very interesting thing to think about.
And too, other people want to hear that story. I think because people want to see something before and after. They want to. I mean, it's kind of like the show. You want to. You're paying attention to see something that needs work, and then what it looks like after an impact. Something's been done to make it better.
Redemption.
Yeah.
That's good.
We all want to see that. It's talking about it was built for storytelling. It is. We've gotten away from. I mean, just naturally, like used to. You would spend time in the barbershop or at the coffee shop or wherever, and you would have conversations with people. But we've gotten to where we're all moving so fast, and we're all through social media wanting to tell our own story, and we want everyone to listen, but we don't want to listen to theirs. And that's that's what we've gotten away from.
So Ben, you are somewhat successful.
Yes.
You have millions of people that watch you every week. Tens of millions of people that recognize you. You have financial success, at least $20,000 worth of cars, at least.
Yeah, at least.
I can't believe that article said you had.
Erin showed it to me, and I started laughing, and she was like, "Isn't that hilarious?" And I said, "Yeah," because she knows
you don't have
real value
$500,000 worth of cars. No. So you've had success, and when we have people on the podcast, whether it's a TV personality, which I think you're so much more than that, obviously, or a stay-at-home mom, we're really interested in how they view legacy. Like, what are you doing today that's going to matter? So 50 years from now, the lights have faded.
Sure.
People aren't watching the show anymore. Yes. People won't be watching the show probably. In your mind now, what do you think you've been doing that's going to matter 50 years from now?
That is, to me, the greatest gift of this show for Erin and I, is that in 50 years, our grandchildren will be able to watch our lives. Y'all's grandchildren will be able to watch your lives, part of it, part of our life.
It is a cool documentary in that way. Isn't it?
And I mean, it's not the whole picture or anything like that, but nothing ever is.
That's what the podcast is about for us a little bit. Like, we wish we would have started 10 years ago, just to have the story.
Sure, it's a little bit of a love letter to
our grandchildren.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's an heirloom.
Yep, that's right.
And so I have been thinking about, my grandfather passed away a year ago, and I have this book that I want to write, that I'm going to write one day, and when I'm in 50 years, when the lights have faded, and
you learn to write
all
good.
This. But it's that there aren't many things anymore that are made in heirloom quality. Houses, if you get a good one, watches, and so as far as that goes, as far as like tangible things that we want to be a part of our legacy. Our farm is something that I'm very proud of and work almost daily on. And it's weird things like I planted some eastern white pines along a part of it this week, and just because I'm I want to see how these will do here. I want to see how they grow, and then in 50 years, what will it look like? Will it be different? And we planted fruit trees, and we're doing all this stuff, and who knows if it'll all still be there in 50 years, or if our family will even own it. But I hope we do. And so, but then I think about the things that when I think about my parents, or when I think about my grandparents, all very hardworking people who, worked their entire lives. But like when I think about my mom and what did I get from my mom? Well, she taught me how to cook, and it's very artistic the way that she does it. It's not a science. It's not perfect every time. It's going to be a little bit different every single time. And so, I learned how to cook from her. I learned how to make things from her. And that's the difference. Like people always ask, oh, was your dad a carpenter? No, he was not. He is not. My dad is a fixer. He knows how to fix. He can figure out how to fix anything. And so I learned to repair things from him. I learned to make things from my mom because my mom made our clothes a lot of the times growing up. And she would, make art or make crafts with us, and she'd make meals with us. She would, start from scratch and make something out of it. My dad has always been, I'm going to take this thing that is broken and I'm going to fix it, which is very interesting since he became a minister. And, he's constantly working, trying to help people, fix their lives and repair their lives. But then also from that, the way that my parents love each other is it's very big and very public, and that's something that I've taken from them, maybe the greatest thing that I've taken from them. And so I want my daughters to grow up and see the way that I love their mother and see the way that she loves me, and take that with them as they grow up and as they raise children. And then and then I mean, my faith, we've always raised the girls. We've always been in church. We've since before they were born, and it's an important part of our lives is that they see us praying, they see us reading our Bible. We also not just doing it with them, but them seeing us do it is different because the things that our parents did that they weren't necessarily doing with us are the things that maybe we learn the most from.
That's right. Yeah.
And so, of course, we pray with the girls and all that, but we do it separate from them also so that they can witness it and see it. So, I don't know. Those are the heirloom things that, I have 2 Oak and Oscar watches. It's a Chicago company, and one of them, it was it cost more than my first vehicle, which is not saying a lot.
Yeah, for Ben Napier, that's not.
I don't know, $500,000 car collection.
I said my first one. It was a huge expense, but Erin was pregnant at the time. And it was, and I said, this will one day be my daughter's, and either she'll give it to her husband or she'll give it to her. And so there is that the storytelling, the physical side of it.
Yeah.
With my dad, I hope to one day get his cowboy boots. I'm the only one of the brothers who can wear them. And so that's,
Y'all hear that, Tom? You hear that,
they
Sam?
won't
Jesse?
fit them.
Yeah.
Their feet are all either bigger or smaller than mine, depending on which brother. But my dad has amassed this huge collection of tools that, one day we will get those. My dad recently gave me a wrench that was his grandfather's, and it's a sawmill wrench. And he said, if you just saw it, you would not know what it looks like. It looks like an old primitive thing, but it had a very specific tool. And he gave it to me, and he told me that story so that then because if you lose that, then it's broken.
The story tied to it.
The story's gone. Yeah. The other day when we were at my grandparents', I said my grandfather passed away a year ago, and my greatest memory with my grandfather is fixing fences. We would go out. I think we're the only grandchildren that did it with him, but me and Tom would go out.
Do you think that means he liked you more or liked you less?
I don't. I don't. I think he knew that we would work.
I was about to say they were the most useful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the kicker there. But we would go out and we would repair fences because he had cows, and they would break fences, or deer would break them, and we would have to go out and repair these fences. And there was this. There was always a fence fixing bucket that had specific tools in them, and the bucket would change over time, but the tools in there stayed the same. There was always, a bucket of staples, the nail staples, hammer and staples. And there was a stick that had marks so that you knew where the strands of barbed wire would go. And we were going through, my dad had some shelves in his shop, and we were getting those shelves out, and we were, just kind of looking around, and is there any of this? And my grandmother is very much like, ask me first, but I want, my children and grandchildren to take as much of this stuff as they want. And so I found this bucket, and my dad didn't even know when I said, oh my gosh, you know what this is? And he was like, no, what is that? He said, and he started naming off what was in it. And I said, this is the fence fixing bucket. And I have so many memories with my grandfather with this. And so I sent pictures of it to Tom, and I went in and asked Grandma, and she was like, yeah. And I said, I don't want to take it if someone else might want it. And she said, no one has asked for it. You can take it. It's been a year. So I sent the bucket with the tools home to Tom, because the memory was with him, the story was with him, and I kept the stick with the strands marked on it. And those are, for me, that was, and the items in the bucket as far as like value were worthless. Like they're $20 worth of tools nowadays. You can still go and buy these same tools, probably the same quality, but we use them alongside our grandfather, and so that's the heirloom. It's and that is the talisman that helps tell.
Well,
the
and
story.
I was going to say that is the power of an heirloom. What it is, it's the ability to speak off into the future, and it can be in the form of a physical item. So, like the stick that now reminds you of the days with your grandfather in the field with Tom, and it was hot, right? So it can be physical, but it can also be those parts of inheritance that you can't pass in that way. So you said the way your mom and dad love one another, it's the way now that you love your wife. And 50 years from now, you actually started with, you hope that your grandchildren can see the show and remember a little bit about who y'all are. The heirloom has the power to speak way off into the future, both through a physical item or through a way of life that's been lived out, be it love for one another, be it faith. And I think that's exactly right.
We talk about a lot of times, it's not necessarily a physical thing that you leave behind so much as an example or a mentality that you leave behind to set the example for the next generation.
And that's good. So thinking of it through the form of story, an heirloom or a legacy is telling your story off in the future. It's telling your story off in the future. Sometimes it's a bucket of old nails, and sometimes it's the way your grandparents loved one another.
Yeah.
And so that's the power of story. And again, the best stories, they're told again and again and again and again.
Whether your wives like it or not.
Boy, that is true, isn't it? So, Ben, thanks so much for coming and telling us some stories.
Heck yeah.
We'll edit it so it's not so long-winded.
Thank you. It's really, so on the show, and y'all know this, and we we'll go and do interviews in places, and they won't cut us off, and they'll be like, you've got 45 minutes. And I'm like, no.
Don't give me 45.
Tell me when you need me to stop and move on to the next, because I'll take 45 minutes to
for
talk
the
about
one
the first
story.
all day.
Yeah, that's what people they say something like, they'll see me on the show and they'll say, I love you on the show. And I always say, that is the edited version of me. Hang out with the real me, and you may not love me so much. A lot more long-winded. So it is nice to have media, the power of media for editing, but as you said earlier, it does just give you just a little bit of a shadow of someone. But that's kind of what a good story does anyway. It's the way your grandfather told his version of that thing that you tell again and again and again. So yeah, man, thanks so much for being here with us. We love storytelling with you, especially. And it's awesome to tell the story of Laurel together.
Thanks to your team here.
Oh, yeah. We've got a pretty good-looking team back here. There's Sam sneaking in.
Yeah, sneaky.
Now,
all smiles.
This episode is not paid for out of Ben's car collection, out of selling it. It's paid for by our sponsors. Who's our sponsor today, Jim?
Well, I think we've put a dent in this pot of Big Ben's blend.
We have another sponsor talking about heirloom goods, Scotsman Manufacturing. We have the Scotsman himself, Mr. Ben Napier, the face of all of this wood products. And actually, he's got a busy schedule. People don't know this. Ben makes every single wooden product that we have. We put him in the factory at night. We let him out in the morning, and then he makes a little TV show.
That's why I have the coffee.
Yes. He can work. No,
Time to get to work.
Scotsman Co., we make the best American-made wooden countertops.
Cutting boards.
And cutting boards that I believe you can find. And it really did. It started with Ben's passion for woodworking. So Scotsman Manufacturing.
Which was a form of storytelling. When I first started doing it, it was, trying to relay something but then like you reach a point where I need to sell something. I need to make something good enough that tells my story without having to do one at a time.
Yeah, that people want to be a part of it. And that's what's so cool. Seriously, Scotsman Manufacturing, we have a factory right here in Laurel. These goods are made by men and women who are so very talented. Ben is honored to be the face of these men and women.
Absolutely, yeah.
He speaks for the craftsmanship. And so everything is made right here in Laurel. And I believe they're the best countertops in the world. I'll go ahead and tell you, wooden
Absolutely.
countertops.
And we want you to be a part of it. So we want you to come and see us here in Laurel. We want you to visit the stores and very soon stay the night with us here at the Heirloom Hotel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have Scotsman products all through the hotel as long as Ben finishes making them. Right, Ben?
Can we, so on the Scotsman, I know that we were wrapping up.
This is,
Here we go.
Here we go. Strap in. No, so when we first started, and I had, I think it was before that we had partnered. It was before we had partnered up. I had made some hats and, had the logo painted on the door, and I handed a hat to a friend of mine, and the first thing he did, he took it and turned it over and looked at the label, and the first hats were made in America. The second hats were not. And he handed it back to me, and he said, "You're part of the problem, man." And I turned it over and looked, and it was made in some other country. And I was like, "Oh shoot, he's right, yeah." And so from that moment on, it was all about providing jobs in America, and I think that is a difference between us and other shows is that we live and work and go to school and go to church with all these people that you see on the show and everything, and so if we are not providing jobs for them, then it's kind of makes it very shallow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that guy was pretty serious about American made.
Yeah.
Whoever he is, I hope he buys a countertop, which is made here in America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, yeah, the thing, and that's what's so special. The products that are made in Laurel, they're made by our neighbors. They're made by people that live next to us, and so the reason I say they're the best, I know the men and women that make them.
Absolutely.
I know how dedicated they are to perfection, and these countertops, they are dang good, as we say. Not just about coffee, but also about our countertops. Yeah.
So if you can't come and see it for yourself, just hop online, laurelmercantile.com.
Or scotsmanusa.com. You can check out all of our offerings. Custom countertops, too. So if you have a custom kitchen, you can talk to one of our, what did you call it the other day?
Oh, it's a countertop concierge.
Concierge.
Ooh.
That's nice. Yeah. So you can
I like that.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I
also known
sales.
as Jace.
Yeah. So you can reach out to us through scotsmanusa.com to get some countertops measured and priced for your kitchen. And they're made right here in Laurel. So thank you guys for supporting that. And Ben, thanks for working all night to make this stuff.
I kept thinking, like, who are you talking
I have a
to? There's a camera.
Well, he's new to TV. Okay, so Mr. Ben, this is my camera.
We've been trained to not notice the camera.
There's a camera?
I kept looking like, why are you telling Brooke? What are you doing?
That's my camera.
I got to roll.
Yeah.
Jim has a prior engagement.
It is a work day.
Well, I've been looking, real quick to tell you, I've been looking to replace Jim. Ben, thank you so much for being here. Jim, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for coming, man. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate your time. And start some good music. Thank you so much for listening to the Heirloom Podcast. We're not really sure where you're going to listen to this or where you're going to watch it, but when we get it out there, we hope you find it.
And when you do, you're going to love it.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Maybe.
They will.